We hear a lot about meditation techniques to quiet the mind, witnessing thoughts to go beyond the mind, watching the breath, being present, which are all wonderful techniques. But in my experience, what we are looking for is not to stop thinking, but to feel into the consciousness who is transcendent of thought, who is transcendent of ego. There is a certain feeling to it, a feeling of light, of transcendental bliss, that we recognize is without ego, does not have the heaviness of ego, does not have the heaviness of mind. And when our attention goes to this feeling, automatically there are no thoughts. Automatically there is no ego. In some ways we are first looking at it from a separation, that we are not the supreme consciousness, but we can feel the supreme consciousness. We can feel the supreme consciousness who is beyond ego, who is beyond a sense of self, and who feels to be supreme happiness, supreme goodness, supreme joy. It is this feeling that we must aspire to, in my experience, that we must recognize, which comes through spiritual practice, which comes through some feeling of enlightened presence, whether it's through this music, through the videos, through a satsang. You feel the consciousness who is transcendent. You get glimpses of it. It's not an emotional feeling. It's not a physical feeling. It is a very subtle feeling that can only be perceived. From awareness, from surrender, from humility. So you have these things, the surrender of ego, the surrender of holding on to thoughts, the humbling of ego, which when felt at the same time, the feeling of the supreme consciousness, the feeling of the transcendental consciousness, the goodness, the light, is not any different than the humbling of ego, than the surrender of mind. So you have these two things. You have the surrender of mind, surrender of ego, the humbling, which comes through spiritual practice. But at the same time, you begin to recognize a feeling of consciousness that transcends ego, that transcends mind, that allows you to surrender fully. First, when you surrender thoughts. You surrender holding on to emotions. You surrender holding on to stories. You surrender resisting this moment. And there is a peace here, a relaxation. But it's still from a sense of self. The I is surrendering. The I is aware of peace. The I is doing the surrender. But when we recognize the supreme light, the supreme joy, then in that surrender of ego, surrender of mind, you go beyond yourself. You recognize what feels divine, what feels transcendent, what feels as the purest happiness, the purest joy, the purest love. And then automatically the mind goes, you want to be in this joy. You want to be freed into this joy. So we start with techniques. And we continue with techniques. But through the Shakti music, through these videos, perhaps you feel something a goodness, a peace that is beyond ego, beyond mind. That attraction to this joy, this peace, this transcendental consciousness, automatically, the more you feel it, the more you can go beyond yourself. The more you are able to let go of mind, let go of ego. My first trip to India, I went there and I had a certain pride about what I had already realized, the level of awareness I had already realized. I went to see this guru. This guru said nothing. He sprinkled some water on me. Instantly, it was as though the ego disappeared, was humbled, and at the same time there was this supreme peace, supreme joy, supreme love, supreme goodness. That is not a bliss that happens to you. That is a bliss that is the truth when you have been cracked open. When somehow you have been blessed and you feel a joy, a light beyond yourself. Call it Guru, call it God, call it consciousness, call it spirit. Truth, when you look into it, it is beyond all names, for it quiets the mind automatically. You enter a space of peace, of joy that has no thought, that has no ego. So that's something to consider. If you got something good out of this video, please feel free to comment or like or share. May you be blessed in her supreme joy. May everyone and everything be blessed in her supreme joy. Om Rim Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Namash Chandikaya. Jai Ma. Much, 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 much love to you. Much love.